information protection processes and procedures. Ideally and preferably, your organization should run on established policy standards and procedures that you have, and these documents will govern your entire organization. All the staff, vendors, and volunteers in any individual or company that represent your brand. So the first step of establishing this program, you should develop and maintain a baseline configuration for all your IT systems, and if it applicable to you, also your OT systems, your operation technology systems as well. But I'll focus on IT system for today. Although the same principles will apply to OT regardless. So having those in place, establishing the minimum security controls and configuration that your organization must have in place, so you can create sort of a baseline. It is a baseline, but that image that you will be using throughout your organizations to establish any systems. You will have one for Windows, one for Unix, one for Linux, and what have you, including network devices as well. And having those as a minimum secure baseline where you start building your applications on top of it. Having those, it will establish a minimum security throughout your organization, and having that image to be deployed across, and that will serve for your internal systems and also for your cloud systems as well. That is imperative, the first step to establish an information protection program. Now, with that comes changes over time. So what you need to do to have something in place to control those changes, that is your configuration management. Now, configuration management is a larger topic. I will only focus on the ones that addresses changes to the baseline. Now, these have to be in place. Every time you touch a system, you upgrade a system, you start an application, have to go through these configuration changes. One is to establish that it was installed correctly. The other one is to make sure that any alterations to your baseline image is documented and monitored. So this way, there's no deviation over time, and you are sure that the controls you put in place are still in place and are currently effectively protecting your organization, and try to avoid assumptions that, well, they might be in place. Well, if you lose track of it, that becomes a challenge. So having a governance model that addresses the change management process is key and critical for this to work. Now, there are 3 roles in the change management process that you should have in place. One is your configuration manager. That individual will make sure that the change occur, and they have a place to test out a backup solution, make sure that the system the change is successful, the application becomes available, the system becomes available, and so forth. The second role is your baseline manager. That individual will be focused on to make sure that your baseline does not change with the implementation of your change. If it does, need to be documented, that deviation. So that individual will be focused on only the baseline impact of your change. And the third and final individual should have in place is the verification manager. And that is basically once everything is done, that third individual comes in, make sure the system was booted correctly, make sure the operating system's back and communicating, make sure the applications are available for the customer, and so forth, to basically validating those changes. And in addition to, if you're implementing a security setting or a patch, or make sure that it was successfully implemented, at that point you even can pull evidence showing that here's the before, here's the after change, and that will be sufficient for your change management program, and also serve as a potential audit evidence as well. Those 3 individuals are key. Now, if there were changes to your baseline, either you predicted the change or you need a change afterwards because it was not successful, the change you made, you will require change in the baseline, most likely. And you need to open a port, you need to start a service that was shut off because of security concerns and so forth, whatever the case may be. You need to monitor those changes, those deviations. The only way to make this happen in a matter that is governed is to leverage your standard exception processes. And you put a standard exception in place, go through the normal approval process, risk rating, get the signature and sign off of the appropriate individual management level, depending on the risk rating of your of the change, of course, and make sure that is documented. And then turn it on that service or that port or what have you, and then implement your change again and see if it works at this time. This way, using and leveraging your standard exception process is a way to, one, monitor the risk, have a sign off in case of an event that your organization is aware, is signing off on the risk to do business as usual.